On this week's episode of BJ in the Morning, we're going to turn into a true crime podcast. Let's go.
Welcome to BJ in the Morning.
Don't do the voice. Don't do the voice.
That's my true crime voice.
I feel like you need to go like old, like noir detective story type of. I was sitting in the diner. It was not a normal diner. But there I was, sitting, waiting,
Watching.
I feel like I sound like Abed when he's doing Batman in Community.
I think
I am the night. I don't sleep because crime doesn't. I'm Batman.
I think you were summoning your inner Nick Cage.
Nick Cage. I mean,
he has a great noir voice.
I feel like when he's like really like toned down a little bit, I feel like he does.
Yeah.
But not even Nick Cage can solve some of these true crime mysteries.
Right.
He probably wouldn't even want to hear some of these stories because they're kind of gruesome.
You never know.
I mean, it's Nick Cage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He might be into that stuff. Not in a weird way.
Not in a weird way, but like in how anyone else listens to true crime podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Most true crime podcasts will focus on one story for an episode.
Yeah.
Maybe multiple episodes they'll span for an entire story. Like,
yeah.
Do you listen to any true crime podcasts?
Not really.
No, I just listened to the last podcast on the left.
So I haven't really been listening to any podcast lately, but the last true crime podcast I did listen to was The Apology Line.
Oh yeah, we did talk about this before.
I told you about it. I told you to listen to it, but it's not free anymore.
Yeah, I didn't
sucks.
listen to it.
Yeah.
Just to be honest.
But that shit took me for a loop.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
I get that, and that's kind of why I got into like last podcast on the left. The first like series that I listened to, like fully really got into them, was about like everything that happened surrounding nuclear bombs and like Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Before the movie came out.
Oh.
That one really hooked me in.
You ever notice that the
Get there. You got this. I believe in you. The Grinch.
The art.
Oh, sorry.
The artwork for Oppenheimer has the bomb behind him. But in the movie, they don't show the bomb like not one fucking time.
I haven't seen it yet.
They show like a prototype, right? And it's like whatever, but they don't really show the bomb.
Well, it's not necessarily about the bomb, right? It's about the people who made the bomb.
Right.
But we're not talking about Oppenheimer because I still haven't watched it, man. It's on Peacock now. So
it should have been about the bomb.
But this episode's probably not going to be about the bomb either. So,
but it's going to be the bomb.
Well, maybe. It's kind of dark.
Yeah.
It's kind of dark.
I feel like with how short they are, it's going to be like, ooh, all right. I'm good.
That's
yeah.
the reaction. That's how we hope you react to this episode is, ooh.
All right.
All right.
And thank you for listening to BJ in the Morning.
It's not over yet. Why are you doing the outro?
I just had to do it, dude. I'm sorry.
But
I don't know how else to say other things in that accent.
I think, like I said, you got to find your detective voice.
Razor blades.
But why don't we jump into this article that we found?
Let's do it.
Talking about 12 true creepy crimes that will make you lock your doors tonight.
Ooh.
And Juan, why don't you take it away? Why don't you
right.
start with the first one on the list?
I got to bring this over here. I don't know why I moved it.
You just got it out of the way for right now.
Yeah, I'm delaying the podcast.
Yeah.
It's okay. I just have to bring my shit out and have it all over the place. All right. to make you lock your doors at night. The first story is a story about Angela Hammond.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in quotes, so it's like somebody wrote it.
Right.
Right. All right. Angela Hammond. She was talking on the payphone with her fiance, saying how there was a suspicious truck that keeps driving around the block. Then that truck parks near where
Take it back. Take it back
sorry.
now.
Then that truck parks near where the payphone is. He gets out and starts looking around with his flashlight, as if he lost something.
Mm-hmm.
He then confronts...
Has anybody seen a contact lens?
He
Sorry,
then
these are real stories.
Angela and abducts her. Her fiance heard all of this while on the other line. He immediately got in his car to drive where Angela was. When doing so, he drove past the guy in the truck, and Angela was screaming his name for help. So he turns around and tries following the truck, and his transmission fucks up.
Language.
Sorry. It's in the article. His transmission F's up, and the guy got away. Angela has never been heard from again, and she was pregnant.
Oof.
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 Imagine hearing that happen on the phone.
I don't like it. I imagined it in that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I feel like you'd feel really helpless in that moment. I know this kind of thing has happened in movies sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
And even like in movies, it's like, wow, I feel helpless. Even if you're not in the movie, you know? So, but like the fact that this happened, this is a thing.
To a real person?
Yeah. I made the joke about
life?
the contact lens, and I feel guilty about the joke, but like, yeah, that's terrifying, you know? Like, to just feel helpless.
You know what's crazy? When you brought up the contact lens, not to like dig in a little more. I was in a forensic class in high school, and we did this forensics competition, and my team lost points because we didn't find a contact lens.
See, it's a thing. It happens.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
My headphones went out again.
Oh, man. Man.
They may have died.
Yeah, I mean, you never charge them. So.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's find out.
Let's find out. Do you want me to start reading the next story while you're looking?
They're dead.
They're dead.
In the middle of the freaking app.
No headphones for you today. But that's okay. Because we're gonna just get back into
what's the next story?
So this is the case of Annie. I think it's Borjesson. It's Borjesson.
It's a Swedish name, right?
Swedish name sounds right. It's like Bjornsson.
Bjornsson. Oh, that sounds
better.
That sounds a lot better.
We should have like looked it up or something before. We did. We just couldn't find anything. I find the case of Annie what did we say? Bjornsson. Really weird. She was a Swedish student studying in Edinburgh. She then went to Prestwick Airport, literally the other side of the country, then down a bit. Caught on CCTV at the airport for 10 seconds, then left. She tried to take out money multiple times from different ATMs, but didn't have the funds, so she was denied. She was seen wandering around Prestwick and then was found dead on the beach. Her long hair had been cut off, and the post-mortem concluded death by drowning. She may have been a victim of foul play, but I also found that her parents' emails were allegedly hacked later on. It may be a case of self-inflicted violence / mental health issues, but I find Annie's case just so bizarre and sad.
Wow.
I think there's a lot of details that we're missing.
Yeah.
But the fact that she was supposed to be on one side of the country and was on the other.
Mm-hmm.
No one knew about. Seems fishy.
But she also seems like she was like scrambling, you know, like to find money or to get out of the country or do, I don't know, ransom?
Some
maybe?
Type of, like maybe.
Like pay us or we will.
Take you?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like really logical, but like just to
You want to get kidnapped? If you don't want to get kidnapped, give us some money.
I feel like that is a little more difficult, like to pull off. Like just thinking about it, like is it logistically?
Yeah, especially seeing her by herself on CCTV.
But the fact that she was only seen a handful of times from when she got there and when she disappeared or was found on the beach.
Yeah.
Kind of scary.
Very scary.
But yeah, mental health is a big deal, and there's part of that which could lead to like I see why you would think like a mental health situation. But there's a lot going on there. Like if you were looking to do that, you know, if you were driven to that point, why would you want to take out money? You know, what do you need the money for?
Yeah.
So that's something fishy, and that's probably
like she was running away from
the
something.
Detectives thought about.
Maybe an ex-boyfriend.
Maybe
a current boyfriend.
Maybe, or someone she met in Edinburgh. You know.
Maybe a stalker.
A stalker. A stalker.
A stalker.
But
hey, don't be stalking.
Don't be stalking people.
Don't be driving people to leave the country to get away from you.
Yeah, we don't need that. I do also want to point out that the ad that is on this right now was for Monopoly.
Oh.
While we were just talking about money stuff. But I would love to move on because the next ad is the #1 outdoor kitchen grill. I want to know if it has anything to do with the next story. So you want to take it away from here?
All right. The next story is the Hinterkaifeck murders. I'm assuming I said that correctly. I'm hoping. All right. The Hinterkaifeck murders.
It sounds right to me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
A family saw footprints in the snow leading to their farm, but no footprints out of the farm. A few days later, they were killed in their own home. There was evidence that the perpetrators were staying in their house or the farm before the killings. It's creepy because your house is supposed to be the safest place. It's hard to feel secure when you think about the possibility that your killer may be living with you. I'm just going to end it right there.
So, let's take it back now, y'all. Footprints in the snow leading to their farm. So, I'm wondering if they were pulling up. Like, they were out and about, and when they come back to the farm, you see the footprints. But there was no footprints out of the farm. So, someone walked up but didn't walk away. Unless they perfectly stepped in every single footprint they made on the way in. Which would also be sus, you know? Like, really suspicious. When they say farm, my brain thinks barn. So that was a little confusing at the top. But...
Well, there's a picture and there is a barn.
Yeah.
Next to the house.
Right. So it's pretty close by. But, I mean, were their footprints leaving after that? How did they know about the footprints? Like, if the people were killed.
Like, how does this person know?
Yeah.
About the family finding the footprints? Good question.
Now I'm suspecting the writer.
Interesting.
He knew details.
Hey,
no one else knew.
You know what's funny is, like, I feel like I would see footprints and get a little scared. but like not really think to look for footprints leaving.
I feel like in the moment you probably would, like, just instinctively. Because I've been in places where there's like maybe mud or anything like that, you know.
Yeah.
Especially here in Arizona, we don't get snow, but we get a lot of like muddy tracks. And you can always see where the tracks go, and you usually see other tracks going a different way, right? So I'm wondering, yeah, maybe instinctively we just see these things, especially just as part of our evolutionary track, you know. I don't know. The detective in me does think it sounds suspicious.
Suspect.
Takes a swig out of a flask. Is it a jar? A glass?
A glass with some like rocks in it.
Rocks?
Rocks.
Roasted nuts. We're not claiming to be detectives, but
we could be.
We're detecting some suspicious activity among these stories.
If you need us to detect anything else,
you can hire us at 1-800
1-800 BJs.
BJs. Don't call that number. A, it's not enough numbers.
1-800 BJs.
All night.
Because we stay up all night.
We stay up all night taking the call. Oh, and detecting. Taking the calls and detecting. All right, let's get back to being a little more serious.
All right,
we can be silly in between the stories.
Sure.
This next story is about Dorothy Scott. So this again, someone else is telling the story. I was just reading about Dorothy Scott recently. Her story is the saddest and creepiest, and the creepiest. What? Wow, the writing on this is okay.
Sad.
Her story is the saddest, and the creepiest was the bones of the dead dog the killer left on top of her remains to throw scavengers' dogs off of its trail. Also, how her watch was stopped to the exact moment she died. I just can't believe that he called her family so often and they could never trace the calls. I know it was the times though, but the whole thing is so horrifying. Okay, so I feel like there's a lot of this that is left out of this story.
It's been pieced together.
So I have it pulled up to just dive a little more into it, okay?
Okay.
You have it pulled up on your side, like the one we just read? Dorothy Jane Scott is an American woman who disappeared on May 28th, 1980 in Anaheim, California.
Got it. This is way better.
She had driven 2 coworkers to the hospital after one had been bitten by a spider. I get the spider story? I'm just kidding. While they were waiting for a prescription to be filled, Scott went to get her car to bring it around to meet them. Her car approached them, but it sped away. Neither could see who was driving as its headlights had blinded them. They reported her missing a couple hours later after not hearing from her. In the preceding months, Scott had been receiving anonymous phone calls from a man who had reportedly been stalking her.
Stalkers.
He had threatened to get her alone and cut her up into bits so no one will ever find her. In June 1980, a man called the Orange County Register, a local newspaper that had published a story on the disappearance and claimed that he had killed Scott. Police believe the caller was Scott's killer. From 1980 to 1984, Scott's mother, Vera, also received phone calls from a man who claimed to have Scott or to have killed her. None of the calls could be traced, however, because the caller would not stay on the line long enough. In August 1984, partial remains were found and later identified as Scott's. No arrests have been made in the case.
Where the dog bones come from?
I don't think that's part of this story on there, but it does say that the creepiest part was the bones of the dead dog the killer left on top of her remains to throw scavenger dogs off their trail. The watch part's also pretty creepy.
Where'd you get these details?
Well, probably because the guy called. The killer called and probably said what he did. Right. And then when they find the remains, all these other things come up with them, right? This is some like Seven stuff. You know what I mean? Like the movie Seven. Where's Brad Pitt?
We need him
right now. This whoever did this really thought it out. You know, like they really had everything planned out. I do think that the watch was probably stopped on purpose. You know, like it was probably set up to be like that. Especially if the stalker, the stalker, took the time to try to cover up, I guess, the scent of a decomposing body with the bones of dogs. Like,
well, another thing that could be interesting is that he covered up the body with the dog bones. Maybe it wasn't necessarily to throw him off his trail. It was so that they would never find her. So now he's calling the parents saying, I killed your daughter.
Ha ha ha.
But they have no proof.
Yeah.
That their daughter is unalived.
Yeah. I think you can just say.
Yeah. And now it's just a psychological warfare.
No, definitely. It's like the Zodiac sending notes and stuff. You know, it's a BTK, you know, kind of situation. You know, it's like all these killers that people are inspired by, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They leave notes, they leave mementos, they have like their way of saying, ha, I did this and you're never going to catch me, which ultimately leads most of them to be
getting caught.
Yeah. So, that's a sad one, you know?
Very sad.
The plot sounds like a movie, which is so sad, you know? Like, it almost like, I don't know. I feel like I've seen it in a movie somewhere, and I'm trying to think of the movie that like reminds me of that. Maybe like the Lovely Bones kind of has that vibe. Do you?
I don't know.
It's okay.
I don't think I've seen that.
You don't need to. But that was a totally different vibe too. But
yeah.
Yeah, Dorothy Scott.
I feel like we had read a story similar to this one though before.
Yeah, or you know the Barbarian backstory, the flashback. That's the vibe. That's what I'm picturing in my head now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That movie's wicked.
Yeah, dude. Probably like this next story if you want to get into it.
All right.
This is a long one.
That's all right. I feel like
I believe in you.
I'm reading better without my headphones.
Yeah, it's probably the delay.
Yeah, you think so?
I think so.
You hear that, people?
It's not Juan. It's the delay in his brain.
In my brain.
Specifically in his brain.
Brandon Swanson.
I thought you said Brendan, and I was like, I'm right here.
Brendan Peterson. Brandon Swanson. For those who are not familiar with his story, Brandon was a 19-year-old who lived in Marshall, Minnesota. Right? MN, Minnesota. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was returning home from a party recently celebrating his graduation from a community college up in a town north of Marshall called Canby, and was on his way home. Along the way, he crashed in a ditch. For some reason, he was taking gravel roads, even though the highway between the two towns was a straight shot north to south. I'm guessing he took this route as a joyride type thing since he loved his car and driving in general, or maybe he had a little too much to drink at the party and didn't want to deal with any state troopers on patrol. Makes sense.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It doesn't make sense.
No one's ever thought of that.
Makes sense, right? Right.
Yeah.
He called his dad for a ride and eventually got tired of waiting inside his crashed car and started to walk towards Marshall. He claimed to his dad
He claimed to his dad
to see lights of something nearby and abruptly exclaimed, "Oh shit."
Taki mushrooms. Sorry.
He claimed to exclaim, "Oh shit."
Okay. We're reading a story.
To his dad while still on the phone, and his call ended. To this day, no one knows what happened to him. Nobody found. None of his belongings found. Oh, no body found.
There you
Got
go.
it.
Yeah,
No
I read it
body
wrong
found.
too.
None of his belongings found. Nothing. There's more to the story, but that's my summary. If you want to learn more, just dig around.
The rest of it seems like to be a theory.
A theory of the writer.
I skimmed through it real fast.
Mm-hmm.
Something said something about aliens. Yeah. Probably not.
Aliens.
Yeah. So it says like he either slipped and fell into the river.
Oh, he saw lights.
Got shot and buried somewhere by a belligerent farmer. Or was abducted by aliens, which would explain the lights.
Mm-hmm.
The person who was telling the story says they're also from southern Minnesota. So they're familiar with the area. Yeah, I mean, especially like in those kind of rural. I've never been able to say that word. I feel so dumb when I have to say rural. Because I can say mural, but why not rural? When you're in those kind of places where they're like flat farmland kind of counties, you can get lost and no one will find you. Like easily, you know, and it sounds like there might have been a river nearby based on this person who lives and is familiar with the area. So that could easily, if someone fell in, could easily wash them away.
So let's walk in Brandon's shoes for a second.
I don't think it was aliens.
It was dark. It was late. You're possibly intoxicated. True? Untrue?
Yeah.
Possibly intoxicated.
Most likely.
Crashed your car. Called your dad. Gets bored of waiting. Starts walking home, pretty much. Then is waiting for his dad. He's still on the phone with his dad, and he sees lights. But they don't say if he saw lights in the sky.
Right, and he probably didn't. Did he? He told his dad about the lights, right? That's said. That's said there.
And then just said, "Oh shoot," and that was it.
It could have been. So it's. I mean, it sounds like a recent, like more recent kind of story, right? He's calling his dad in the middle of nowhere, cell phone, right? Could it be possible that maybe it was a farmer on this land? The lights they saw were flashlights or something of the sort. Yeah, like an ATV. You know how they have like tons of lights on them sometimes, especially out there. They would need them.
Yeah.
And it could look kind of creepy, you know?
Yeah.
Like having a quick vehicle with huge light bars and stuff on it.
Or he gets hit by the ATV. And then the farmers are like, uh-oh.
And we've also seen that in Hollywood situations, you know, where it's like, I know what you did last summer. Yeah. You know, kind of vibes.
Or definitely aliens.
Aliens. Aliens freak me out. Have we talked about that on the podcast?
No, we haven't.
About how one of my irrational fears is being abducted by aliens.
Maybe that'll be in a future episode.
I blame science, and just like most people in our generation.
You know what? That's the episode after next.
But let's talk about the Bennington Triangle disappearances.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
It's an old one. Beginning in November 1945 through October 1950, 5 people ages 8 to 74 years old went missing in the area. One was an experienced hunting guide and another was a 53-year-old woman described as an experienced camper and hiker who knew the area like the back of her hand. Anytime I hear that statement, like the back of her hand, I think it's from the Muppets, where it's like, oh, what's that? I don't remember what it's from. Where it's like, I know that's like the back of my hand. Oh,
what's that?
Yeah. Looking at the hand. But anyways, so this person says they've hiked Vermont's Long Trail, and there are places where you get a feeling of being watched by someone or something. In 2008, an instructor at Bennington College and experienced hiker got lost on the mountain, later recounted his strange experiences, and swore he would never again hike the trail alone. So, lots of people disappearing. Lots of people who have all these all this experience doing all these things, missing in Bennington, wherever that is. Vermont, I'm guessing, or along the Vermont's Long Trail.
The Long Trail.
Honestly, being out in nature like that can be really relaxing, but also being out there alone can be terrifying.
It is.
Again, those areas are very heavily like, there's heavy vegetation. There's probably lots of rocks, hills, crooks, valleys, whatever, like, running waters, sorts of things. You can get turned around when everything starts looking the same.
Yeah, especially if there's not an actual, like if you get off the path of the trail.
Yeah.
And it's just straight trees. And all the trees start to look the same.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've been there. We've been there.
I haven't been
sometimes, well, not there. But we've been in that situation.
Yeah, even just
also being in the desert.
In the desert, like surrounding the neighborhoods that we grew up in, like we've definitely gotten lost out there.
And we've gone far enough to where you can't really see the houses, and you're like, oh, which way are we
I think
supposed to go?
most creeped out I've ever been in that kind of situation was out in like the farmlands up north from Tucson,
like Picacho Peak.
Not that far.
Marana.
Yeah, that kind of area. I wasn't. I'm not entirely sure where the line is, from Marana to Tucson, because it's kind of at a weird angle. But like riding bikes throughout there, where all there is dirt roads, farm like plots of like crops and everything.
Yeah.
And rusty barbed wire fences, and then you just see like a random dude in a field, no cars, no nothing. It's like the most terrifying feeling. That's not what we're talking about here.
It's not.
But we don't have large trees and huge vines and things like that like really obscure our vision when we're out in the deserts here. Our trees are pretty small, not a lot of leaves. We have like hills and like little like canyons built out like that were formed because of monsoon rains and things. But honestly, no matter where we've been here, we've always been able to see a landmark to get us home.
Yeah.
In these sorts of situations, like I've been like hiking in Washington and stuff, or like even just right off the road where you can't see anything and it gets quiet, like you're done. Like
super done.
There's not much else you're doing out there, man.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it can get terrifying. The closest thing I have is, like I said, in Washington, or like when I grew up in Arkansas, there was this whole wooded area behind my house, that I used to play in as a like 6-year-old. I was too small to be out there, and my parents always told me, "Don't go out there."
Yeah,
I did. But I've like Google Maps where I lived when I was a kid, and it wasn't as big as I still vividly see in my head. Like still, because I wasn't like little, you know. I was old enough to remember these things, I think.
Yeah.
Right. I don't trust my brain sometimes.
Well, this is pretty interesting that you say that, because just yesterday I was talking with my sister, Carol. My sister, she's not really my sister, but anyways, I was talking to her yesterday, I was like, oh, what are you doing tonight? She's like, oh, I'm going to Mammoth to go see my cousins. Mm-hmm. And I was like, and she's like, do you remember going to Mammoth with us? And I was like, yeah, of course. It was a blast. And I was like, how long does it take for you to get there? After? Because she said she was going after work. I was like, it's going to take a long time. Mm-hmm. She's like, oh, it's like about an hour, 45 minutes. And I was like, when I was a kid, I could have sworn we were in the car
all day.
Freaking day. Like, I thought we were driving to California.
Yeah. And that's how it used to feel going to Phoenix. You know? It's like an hour and a half. It's not, sometimes that drive seems really long as an adult, but when you're younger, every drive seems like it takes forever.
A long time.
Yeah. No, and I get it. I know I was probably annoying as heck. Mm-hmm. Like, are we there yet?
Are we there yet?
But yeah, no, our concept of time and space and everything like that as small children can be totally warped.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, you couldn't see one side or the other from this little forested area. On one side is houses, on the other side, because it like went to a triangle. On the other side was a fence. Like you couldn't cross the fence. It was on like a military base, right?
Yeah.
It was not that far.
Wow.
But I walked to that fence once, and I felt like I was gone all day.
All day. Yeah. It was like.
But I probably walked in a circle once or twice.
Walking to the edge of the Shire.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
One more step, and this is the furthest away from home I've ever been.
What you got next on the list?
I got the Setagaya family. The Setagaya family.
Uh-huh.
It's very short. All right. So
if we need to look up more info.
All right. I'll let you know. I mean, we'll find out. Mm-hmm. The killer stayed in the house for hours, eating their food. Mm-hmm. They put a weird parentheses right there. Eating their, parentheses, the Setagaya family's, parentheses, food. Seems unnecessary, but okay. Logging into the family computer and sleeping on their couch. It's so creepy because rarely does a killer stick around for hours after they commit the crime and making themselves at home. That's it. That's the end of the story. So we got a Goldilocks situation in our hands, kind of.
I mean, putting it lightly, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, here's basically the same thing for the story.
All right.
Is that they were murdered during a home invasion by an unknown assailant, who then remained in the family's house for several hours before disappearing. This happened in Japan. Japanese police launched a massive investigation that uncovered the killer's DNA and many specific clues about their identity, but the perpetrator has never been identified. The media frenzy and long investigation of the murders became a cause. I think says it's in a French. I don't know. Why is there French on here?
Let me see. Cause celebre?
I don't know. But it was to abolish the statute of limitation for crimes that could merit the death penalty in Japan, which was removed in 2010. And this happened in 2000. Mm-hmm.
So they found a bunch of evidence of the person's identity and DNA, but still never identified him?
Right.
Something sounds a little fishy in this bowl.
I mean, it just... in a place like Japan, I feel like you could really get away with just disappearing for the most part, you know? Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's like other islands and stuff you can disappear to,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, Japan's technology has always been further along than ours, than in America. And in 2000, you know,
mm-hmm.
I feel like they could have found them. I mean, now they'll find your... They'll get your DNA and freaking find you from your eyelash.
Yeah, right.
You know, and
from the contact lens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um,
But they're like they can tag your phone everywhere now. This was, years ago too now. So
in 2000, 24 years ago.
Yeah, so technology was a lot different then than it is now.
Sure.
That just reminds me of another story that I'd love to talk to you about sometime. It's another true crime one.
Don't forget about it.
I'll tell you at the end, because this next story is really really short. And it's weird because it's Brandon Lawson when we just had a story about Brandon Swanson.
What's going on here?
I don't know. But there is an audio clip here of the 911 operator's voice.
I'm not gonna.
Interesting. I don't know if I should play it because we didn't listen to it beforehand.
Should we pause and listen?
If you're hearing it right now, we did that. I don't know.
You want to pause?
Sure. Let's check it out. It was pretty creepy. So this is what this user says about the story. It was ran out of gas in the middle of nowhere, Texas in 2013. He called the cops. Much of it is inaudible. That's what we said. But he implies he's being chased into the woods and says he needs the cops. When the police arrived, they find his truck, but nothing else. Not a trace of him since. And in the audio that we just, I don't think we need to play it just because it's so
inaudible.
It's really like loud and you can't really hear what's going on. You can clearly hear gunshots though.
Yeah.
He does sound panicked. It sounds like he ran into these people doing something and got caught up in it. You know what I mean? So,
and there's also apparently a gunshot.
There's multiple gunshots
in the audio. But there's no trace of blood. There's no trace of anything.
He's just gone.
Aliens?
But yeah, I mean, that's a quick one.
Yeah, I think the next one is pretty quick too. Hard to pronounce though.
I think that's fine. I think, yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna try. All right.
I'm trying to see if there's anywhere that. Sorry, I opened the link. And it is so much more.
Really?
So why don't you read it and then we can go over some other stuff in here.
This?
If we need to, yeah. I just clicked on the name of this person.
Yeah.
To see if something would.
And yes, of course there was.
There was a lot more.
Okay.
It's a lot of what you're gonna read.
So this is just the synopsis, apparently. All right. So the Katarzyna Zawada. Sound good?
That sounds better than what I would do.
In parentheses, the skin case. A young Polish student disappears in Karakow City. Any idea where that's at?
Not at all.
Okay. A few months later, a ship on the Vistula River stops because something is stuck to the propeller. What they have found surprised everyone. They have gotten out a skin of missing Katarzyna Zawada. To be more precise, a suit made of human skin. Someone had cut all the limbs and head, then created a bodysuit from the remaining part, which was probably worn by the murderer for some time. Despite media attention and increased police interest, every few years a perpetrator had never been found.
Read that last time one more time.
Despite media attention and increased police interest, every few years a perpetrator never had been found.
Gotcha. I put it together.
I feel like there could have been a comma.
Yeah, I think there should have been.
And there was not. Just make that clear.
Yeah, and let's just dive into this a little bit more.
Okay.
Because this is the last story we're going to go over today. So a tugboat operator on January 7th, 1999, opened a hatch. I have the name of the ship I'm not going to read. To remove what was stuck in the propeller since last evening.
So the Katarzyna was, or whatever it was,
Katarzyna.
was the name of the ship?
No.
Oh,
That's the name of the victim.
Right. Okay.
To remove what was stuck in the propeller since last night. He expected to find a tire or a tree branch, but what he saw was something different. He wondered what the object was, of nondescript pale color and sack-like appearance. When he felt a foul smell.
Smelt a foul smell?
I think so. When he smelled a foul smell and noticed a human ear.
Oh.
As it turned out later, what he found were the remains of 23-year-old religion knowledge student Katarzyna Zawada. Specifically her skin, neatly cut away at the thighs and neck, reaching only as far as the left ear, without the face and arms. The coroner said the body had been in the water for about 2 or 3 weeks before she was found. Pieces of her sweater were also at the scene. A week later, her leg was found near a hydroelectric dam among some floating litter and tree branches. No other remains of her have been found. Some of her clothes have pieces of jeans and a flannel shirt with a square cut out. She had been missing since November 12, 1998. She was a loner who had few friends and always sat alone during lectures and lived with her mother. Her mother became worried when she didn't show up to a doctor's appointment to which they were going to go together. It was discussed that it was a copycat murder based on Silence of the Lambs.
Ugh.
On May 31st, around 1 p.m., the police received a phone call. An elderly man said there was a murder at his house in a tiny village near the city, and he believed his grandson was the murderer. Wow, this goes on. There's so much more to this. In the house's basement, a corpse was hanging down from the ceiling.
Ugh.
The victim, a 50-year-old man who had been beheaded, and the skin of his head and face was found at the scene. It was sewn to form a mask. It gets worse from there.
Yeah.
This is crazy. The case was reopened in 2012. Traces of relatively rare plant species were found on the sweater, which the police believe could pinpoint the location of the crime. Edit. In accordance to all recent sources, the victim's name was Zawada. Yeah, okay, they spelled it wrong is what it was. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot more going in here. That it just gets really dark and really disgusting.
But it just goes on. Like, it wasn't just a one-time thing, which either way, one time is way too many.
Yeah.
But this man or
this person, this evil being
did that for fun. This was Texas Chainsaw Massacre type shit.
No, for real. And that's why I like them saying like copycat stuff like that happens a lot. Way too much.
Yeah. Horrible. Now I'm sad.
Yeah, I think we should do a fun episode after this.
Sounds good to me.
I don't get how podcasts can just be about this kind of stuff. You got to be a specific kind of person, which is funny because I listen to a true crime podcast like weekly. But the way they handle some things and the way that they talk about some things, it makes sense that that's what they talk about. They do really awesome research. They do make jokes on like the person doing the bad stuff. And they're still funny about things. But when I read these things, I don't feel like I want to be funny. And then when it does come out, like it did a couple times today. Yeah. It's like, I feel gross for trying to be funny with it.
Yeah. But like, think about it in the way where when you hear them make the jokes, it's not coming out like as bad as you think. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Maybe.
I don't know. My brain is just saying, that the world is a messed up place, you know?
Yeah.
There's a lot of really dangerous, really terrible people out there. Mm-hmm. Lock your doors, like the thing said we should do. Mm-hmm. There was a couple more stories on this list, but after that last one, I don't think we need to get into it.
Yeah, definitely not.
But if you guys liked hearing these true crime stories, and if there's any that you think we need to discuss, if there's any maybe more pop culture themed ones, like something around movies or TV or anything like that, like maybe that's something we need to get into, since we do typically lean on the pop culture side of things. Mm-hmm. But this one, we just wanted to try it out, like to be a true crime podcast kind of esque deal.
But even still, we didn't do any deep dives or anything like that, really.
Yeah, we dipped our toe in. We dipped our toe into the shallowest end of the pool. Mm-hmm. There's still water slides and a wave pool in this water park, you know?
Yes.
One of those water slides. Yeah, you get it. It gets crazy. You know what I'm putting down.
Understood.
But yeah, if you liked anything that you heard today, if you want us to talk about any other stories, make sure you're following us. Are you good?
I'm good.
You just situating.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, follow us over on like Instagram, TikTok, Twitch at
BJ in the morning _.
Shoot us a DM. Tell us some stories you'd like us to talk about. And we'll see if we can get to them.
Yeah.
If we have the mental capacity
or the time.
The time. But if you're watching or listening on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Mm-hmm. Hit the bell, right? Just ding that little bell.
Just tap it this time.
Just a little tap.
No smashing. No ringing. Just.
I don't want to hear the bell. I just want to see that you did it.
Yeah.
And just a little.
Ding.
No, I heard it. Just a little. Just a little.
Ding.
I saw. One more time.
Ding.
Well, anyways, you know what
they're
we're
not
trying to.
They're not going to know that you're hitting it. The listeners.
True.
Listening.
Okay, hold on. We'll just. That was better. That was better for sure. So yeah, why don't you go ahead and ding that bell? Comment down below if there's any other stories that we need to talk about today. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's it today, Juan.
Yeah.
I feel like I need a shower.
Me too. You want to go shower?
Not together. You got 2 showers, right? I definitely got to pee at the least, so we'll do that.
Well,
not together.
Thank you for listening to BJ in the morning. I'm Juan.
And I'm not doing an accent, but my name's Brendan.
And we
will
talk
to you
next
time.